have to scoot out about 15 minutes beforehand, ladies, so I'll just pop out when I need to.
Okay. Yeah, it's an hour, so we're done by 10:45. That should be good, unless we have to stop. I guess 10:45 my time, 12:45 your time. All right.
When we stop that, hi everyone, welcome in. Okay, I'm gonna dive straight in because we have so much to cover today. So much. So I am gonna share my screen with you and dive in. So let me see where we're at. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit of housekeeping before we kick off. Let me just check I can see everything here. Yeah. Okay. So the good news is that funnel.
Really quickly, Bailey, last time we listened to it on 1.5 speed. Dana, would you like to do that again? Or 1.25. It's not too overwhelming with her voice, but checking in to see how you feel about that.
Yeah, I'm an audio reader and I'm at like 1.5 most of the time. So 1.2, but especially with an accent, that sounds great. Like 1.2. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Let's see if I can get it here.
Submission window opens today. So this window is open from today, Wednesday, April 3rd, and will close on Friday, April 19th at 5 p.m. Pacific time.
I'm not finding it. I don't know why it's not here.
It was in that thing you clicked when there was one that said speed at the very top above quality.
Oh, my people were in the way. You ladies were covering it. Okay, there we go. Good.
That means you have from now until April 19th to submit your funnel, okay? So you're gonna get an email today with every single thing you need, as well as we're putting a lesson inside of your course portal. You can watch, and everything you need to submit the funnel is inside of there. So I'm gonna give you just a little sneak peek of the funnel feedback form. I'm not gonna go through it, but there's a form here that you'll go through, you'll fill this in, and using this is how we are gonna be able to start assessing your funnels, right? So that is all put together for you already. 1 sec. It's changed the way that I'm sharing screen. Let me come back. Okay.
I'm gonna fast forward this.
Let's dive into today. We are talking email marketing and tech automation, right? Now, for some of you, this is going to be a really fun call. And for some of you, this can be really overwhelming. Some of you love getting into the details of email, copy, or tech automations, plugging things together. And for some of you, this is a real edge. And I know this from a lot of onboarding forms. For some of you, this is a place that you have no one is coming up and it's been making you a little bit anxious. So I just want to call out what I'm about to share with you is not an essential to getting your funnel up and running. There's some parts of it that I think, yes, we should all have in place. A lot of what I'm going to share is actually something that you can decide to continue adding into your funnel as you go. So as we go through this, I don't want you to get overwhelmed and feel like you're behind if you don't understand it. I don't think anyone that sees this first time fully understands it, right? It's something that we're constantly learning and constantly mastering. And, you know, for some of you, you might not want to understand it and you might see the bones of it. You might know what needs to happen and you might decide to hire someone. Okay, but we're keeping it as absolutely simple as possible. But I just want to preface with that, as with every call. Okay, so what we're going to cover is the what and how of email marketing, specifically with your funnel, not just email marketing in general, and then the tech specifics that I know you have questions for. So let's talk about email marketing sequences. Email marketing is most often the biggest needle mover when it comes to revenue in your business. Bringing people into your funnel will allow your email marketing to do its work once you've set everything up to be automated. Because when people come into your funnel, the email marketing piece should be set about and forgot about, right? So it is running every single day, 24/7, and is sending emails automatically and really taking care of a lot of the legwork for you. It's something that you put a lot of time into in the beginning, and then you set it and you forget it. And also you do have a bonus where I'm showing you how to use ChatGPT to write your email sequences with you. This is something that we also do. So definitely dive into that video if you don't have any sequences yet. So there's a bunch of different types of sequences. These are 6 that might be part of your funnel. So you'll have a warm up and a nurture sequence. This is when people have joined your list and you're really warming them up. You're taking them from cold to warm to hot. You're nurturing your lead into eventually becoming a buyer. A promotion sequence. This is when you are promoting something directly to your list. Maybe you're promoting your webinar or your bootcamp or your quiz, or you're directly promoting Part Open. A show up sequence. This is if you're running an event that requires somebody to show up. So let's say, for example, your webinar, if you're running a webinar and you want people to show up, you have a show up sequence so that you can really maximize how many people are going to show up live. You have a sales sequence, and this is right after that conversion event happens, your sales sequence kicks in and just starts selling for you. Now, this is different to a promotion sequence, because a promotion, you're promoting probably the conversion event, or you're sending out maybe sales emails to your entire list. It's a promotion that you're running. A sales sequence is something that's plugged into your funnel, so that once someone has come in, maybe they've downloaded PDF or they've went to the conversion event, they're being emailed automatically. That's a sales sequence. A downsell sequence is, let's say you get them on your list, they sign up to a webinar, they attend the webinar, they get your entire sales sequence and they still don't buy. You can then, optional, again, a lot of this is optional, you can then switch into a downsell sequence to start downselling them into something else. Maybe your core offer wasn't what they wanted, but you are offering a more extended payment plan of your core offer, which I do class as a downsell, or maybe you're selling a compact offer if that's something that you already have. And then a re-engagement sequence. This isn't really to do with your funnel, but I like to put it in there for any of you who are just generally thinking about your list health. A re-engagement sequence is how you can start to get leads who are sitting on your list who haven't been engaged in a while to start re-engaging with you, right? So these are the main types of sequences. This is not an extensive list, but this really is a list that has the most to do with your funnel. So let's dive into email marketing best practice, because I'm going to give you all the examples of what it really looks like to be able to make the most of you sending each email. Like I tell my team this all the time. I really care about quality, not quantity. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, I'm so early in my career, in my marketing career right now, and early in my funnel building game, that I don't have a lot of this built out, and to go into all of these emails that you're listing out, Natalie, it feels really unreasonable. I would say focus on quality over quantity, because just sending more emails to your list because you can is not necessarily going to bring in more sales, versus spending the time you would have taken to write 3 general emails, putting that time and effort into writing 1 incredible email. You're probably going to have a much better response from taking time to write the 1, right? So I really like to share that it's more about the quality of your email. Most of what we do copy-wise in these emails is called direct response marketing. Direct response marketing. And most of what you do is trying to elicit that direct response, which is buying something from you. So let's talk about the content of your email. So I really want you to think about having a strong hook. Yes, generally that's a subject line, but it's not just the subject line. The hook of an email is the whole point of an email and the reason that someone's going to buy. So it can be very easy to throw everything in your email. You're going to get this, you're going to get this, you're going to get this. What about this? Throw everything at them, because if you give them all this value, how can they say no, right? Well, actually very easily. What I want you to have is a very, very strong hook. So you think about, what is the theme of this email? And what's the thing that I want them to do at the end? So thinking about the theme, what is a strong hook that's going to bring them in, right? So an example is a lot of emails that I share, I try and keep things as simple as possible. I try and lead with a story. I want to have one main focus and purpose, and I'll really try and distill a lot into that email. So an example might be, one hook that I use in my emails, but also in some of my social content, is I scaled to 7 figures with 1 funnel and one $29 product. That's a hook, because I'm sharing something that my ideal client, not everyone, but my ideal client is going to sit up and say, interesting, tell me more. So I'll lead with a story. I'll tell the story about what it looked like for me to be able to generate that amount of revenue and what kind of funnel I had to be able to generate that revenue. So you can see my email has one core focus. It's explaining the power of having one funnel and what that could really do for your business. And my purpose would be a call to action where they can join my program, right? So when I'm mapping out my emails, I don't just sit with a blank screen and say, all right, let me just get a list of all the bonuses. Let me get a list of all the things. I sit and I think, what's the hook for this email? What's the purpose? What am I trying to convey? And I generally want it to be valuable whether or not someone buys, because I don't want everyone unsubscribing just because I'm selling. So I'll think about, okay, I want them to understand the power of funnels. How can I do that? That's the purpose. Understand the power of funnels, and ideally want to work with me to do that. Okay, well, I could tell my story about how I made my first 7 figures. Cool, well, what's a hook? How to make that sexy? Well, I made my first 7 figures with a $29 product in 1 funnel. I get more specific and it gets more sexy. It gets stronger as a hook. And so I really, really think about how I'm doing that. So I'll sit with a blank piece of paper, and for each email, I'll brainstorm that. What's my hook? What's my story? What's the one focus? And what's the call to action? And sometimes you'll work that way around. You'll think, here's my call to action, which means my focus should be this, which means my story should be this. And a hook I can get from that story is that. Those are the 4 things that I want every single one of you thinking about when you are doing your email marketing, right? We know that the space is saturated. That doesn't mean there's no space for you. There is space when you're doing it right. And again, like I said last week's call, we're not just here to do the bare minimum and to get a funnel off the ground. We're here to really lead the industry as the best. And I want to share with you all the best practices. And then in terms of system, you really want to have clear tagging in place. And we'll get more into this, but what I mean by having clear tagging in place is, let's say you're emailing your list and you're sending an email to Caitlin and you're like, buy this program, and she buys it and she's super excited about the purchase. And then the next day you send another email promoting the program and she's like, well, I just signed up, why am I getting this? And then the next day you send another email promoting the program and she's starting to get a bit fed up and maybe starting to regret her purchase, right? This is where tagging is really, really important. You really want to be able to tag people based on the actions that they take. So you know that whatever you're sharing with them is relevant for them. It's also then really important that you tag Caitlin so that she goes into a welcome sequence for your product that you just sold. If it's a physical product, if it's a service, whatever it is, you really want to have a welcome sequence in place so you can be emailing her saying, hey, Caitlin, super grateful for your purchase. Here's your next steps, right? And we want to have automated flows in place because you want this to be happening automatically. You don't want to be sitting with your piece of paper. All right, Caitlin bought, let me go take her out of this list. You don't want to be doing that all manually. Because again, bringing it back to what I know everyone here wants, and that's a freedom-based business. In a freedom-based business, we use freedom-giving systems, and freedom-giving systems are things like automated flows. Whatever we can automate, we automate. I never want to delegate something that can be automated because that's taking space on someone's plate that could be given to some process that can't be automated. So I really like to think through that. So another thing that I really want you to consider when you're sitting with that piece of paper and you're brainstorming your emails, is your audience cold, warm, or hot? Because this is going to change the type of content you share with them. If your audience is really hot, they will probably not need as much information. They probably just need to kind of know what you're doing, why it's really valuable for them, let's get them in. If they're cold, they're going to need more backstory. They're going to need to see more social proof, and they're going to need to see that you can deliver what you say you can deliver, right? So I generally like to treat my audience as cold and warm, even if I know I have hot leads on there, because if I treat my hot leads like cold leads, I'm still going to make the sale. But if I treat my cold leads like hot leads, I'm not going to make the sale. So if you don't have time to sit and make a sequence for cold, a sequence for warm, and a sequence for hot, which by the way, I don't, and I have a really great team, then you probably want to assume they need more backstory, they need more social proof, and they need more of a demonstration of value, right? So what I'm going to dive into, and I just want to preface this before I dive into it, because it's going to be a lot, is all of the emails that I think you should have for your funnel. So, and I'm also seeing a lot of questions coming in about tech. Don't worry, we are going to be diving into all that tech stuff. But what I'm going to share with you is all the emails that I think you should have in place. This is all inside of your workbook. So if you're not reading your workbook alongside of this, I do recommend printing it out to get your head around. Not because it's necessarily complicated, but it's just a lot of information that I'm giving to you, right? So you might want time to just sit and digest all of this. So let's talk about different flows that you will have in place with your funnel. And again, if you don't have every single one of these in place, that's okay. It's something you can always build up to. So let's say someone has opted into your qualifier and you want to get them to your conversion event. That's going back to a couple of modules ago when we talked about, we want to bring someone in with a qualifier and then get them into a conversion event. Here's how you would write 6 emails. Email 1 will be a confirmation of the download. They get it immediately. Here's your download. Hope you love it. Email 2 would be after a day and you would invite them to the webinar. Email 3 and 4, again, a day later, you would invite them to the webinar. But remember that you are tagging. So Caitlin already opted into the email, to the webinar, sorry, on email 2. You don't want to be sending her reminders to opt in. And when you see it written, webinar invitation reminder, this doesn't mean, hi Caitlin, reminder that I'm running a webinar in 2 days, make sure you get on the list. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is this. What we're talking about is a strong hook, leading with story, having a main focus and purpose, and having a call to action. So working backwards, and again, this is all in your workbook, you have all of this. Working backwards, the call to action that I know I want to have is, I want Caitlin to attend the webinar. And poor Caitlin, how many Caitlins do we have on today? I don't know why we're using you as an example, but you're our example today. You're going to have a clear call to action. Okay, I want her to join the webinar. So then what is the focus and purpose? Well, the purpose is to get her on the webinar. The focus might be one specific thing I'm teaching in the webinar that I know she's really interested in. Cool. Well, what story could I tell about how I discovered this knowledge and what this knowledge did for me? Cool, I've got the story. Now let me pull out of that story a strong hook. Let me pull out of that story something that I can use in the subject line and the first couple lines to really pull her in, to make her want to read all the way to the bottom and click the button, right? So that's what we're talking about, but I'm telling you how they should generally be spaced out. So you've got 3 chances to invite Caitlin to the webinar. Then here's where it gets really interesting. Not everybody is going to opt into your webinar, and they don't need to opt into your webinar to buy. But if they don't opt into your webinar, we don't want to hit them with a ton of sales emails, because they're kind of signaling to us like, I wasn't interested in that. So if they're not then super interested in your offer, we just want to hit them with 2 emails. Email number 5 is 5 days after the opt-in qualifier, you'll present your offer to them. Because you're not just going to say, oh, well, because you didn't come to the webinar, I'm just going to forget about you. No, let's tell them what we have available. Maybe they were just busy. Okay, here's the offer. And then whatever your scarcity is for your offer, you'll share that on email 6. So they still get all of that from opting in to getting that email 6 days later. Okay, that's your opt-in qualifier to conversion event. Obviously, if someone opts into the webinar, they're going to move into a different flow, and that's what we're going to talk about here. So this is the show up sequence. This is when someone has opted into your webinar, right? So let's say from email 1, 2, or 3, they opt into your webinar. This is your show up sequence. Now, here's what I really want to emphasize here. Not everyone will get this sequence, because some of you will be delivering this live. Some of you will have your webinar, and this, by the way, this goes the same for bootcamps and kind of live events. Some of you will have this running evergreen. And if it's evergreen, you'll probably give them a couple of options. You'll give them an on-demand option, which means they can watch right then and there. Or you might give them a couple of options that's like tonight or tomorrow morning, right? You generally give people a lot of options. So you'll have all of these plugged in to whatever software you use. We love Webinar Jam. And it basically means no matter when someone opts in, they get the correct emails. You're not having to think about the timing of this, but you plug in these emails anyway. So if you're running a live webinar or a live bootcamp, I give an immediate confirmation. I give them the links that they can click and add to their Google Calendars. I then email them 3 days before, 24 hours before, 3 hours before, 1 hour before, 15 minutes before, and live now. This is not overkill, and it's really important to remind people to show up, because if your leads don't show up to your webinar, that's your data is going to be not looking so healthy. Now, again, if someone opts in for an on-demand, they're only going to get email 6 and 7 probably, maybe even only email 7. If someone opts in for a webinar that starts tomorrow morning, maybe they only get the 4 emails, right? So this is how we differ between live. Now, here's what happens between the webinar and the sale. And again, you have all of this in your workbook, so please don't worry about scribbling down notes on every single one of these. What you probably want to write notes on is the things I share outside of the slides, but you have all of this. So for people that watched your webinar or engaged on your bootcamp, you will send this what's below. And if they didn't watch, what you're going to do is send a replay to them. So again, based on whatever software you use, and we're going to get into all the tech soon, don't worry. Based on whatever tech you use, all of this is automated. We use Webinar Jam, and Webinar Jam will generally know if someone watched or if they didn't, right? So if they didn't, we have it set up so that they get sent a replay, because we know, listen, if I get them to the conversion event, I'm way more likely to get a sale than if I just email them the sales emails. Another thing that I want to share is, if you're a beginner, use the email templates that we provided for you. If you are more advanced, you can build out a more advanced sequence. And I'm giving you an example here of different things you can include in your advanced sequence. Now, this isn't an advanced thing to do. The reason that you might just want to use templates if you're a beginner is it takes a lot of time to come up with stories, come up with hooks, to actually come up with the content that you know is going to really work. And I don't want you to let all of this delay you in putting your funnel together. So you've got email templates that you can literally work with ChatGPT to get done in an afternoon. But if you are more advanced, then here's a way that you could put together a sequence as well that would really support. And again, you have access to this curriculum for as long as you want. So maybe you start out with the basic sequence. I'm going to be showing you soon how you can track, are my emails working? Is this working? Is this converting? And if you find your emails aren't converting, all you need to do is come back and watch this video again and up the ante on it, right? So within immediately post webinar, you'll send that email saying you've got a bonus expiring in 30 minutes. You will then give on day 2 the backstory to why you created this product. On email 3, you'll focus on the transformation that the product can give. On email 4, you'll focus on all of the results that this product can give. On email 5, this one is optional, but I often recommend doing a mid-cart bonus, because normally what happens when you're doing something live, or even evergreen really, when you give, you'll have a bonus expiring after 30 minutes like we talked about, but then you'll also have one expiring after, say, 7 to 10 days. You'll get a big spike right away at the conversion event, but then you'll have a lull all the way till cart close. Now, what we generally do to counteract this lull is we have that big spike from the conversion event. We often bring back that 30-minute bonus or a different bonus, which is a mid-cart bonus people normally get for 28, 48 hours. That gives us a big spike in sales, and then we close, right? Then you'll send an email overcoming people's objections. So this is the things that you know they're saying to themselves. well, I've tried everything, but nothing ever seems to work. Well, I would really like to, but I don't have time. Now, you know all your objections for your ideal client by now. Email 7, listen, the deadline's approaching, you really need to take action. And then on cart close day, I always send at least 2 emails. Sometimes I've sent 4. This is really up to you. Most of you will probably think that's way too many emails, right? But those of you that have been email marketing for a while, you'll know you got to hit them a bit more than you think you have to, right? So I would send at least 2 on cart close day. So moving into downsell sequence. So let's say you send them all the way through this sales sequence and they still don't buy. Now you can move them into a downsell sequence. So what I like to do is take 2 days of no emails, then move them into the downsell sequence. Again, this is all automated based on tagging. Did they buy? No. Cool, let's wait 2 days, drop them into a downsell. So email number 1 would be introduce whatever the downsell is. Email 2 is the results of the downsell. And then email 3 and 4 are literally the last chance. We keep it very simple. We keep it straight to the point. So it's either your compact offer or an easier payment plan. We see a lot of success with an easier payment plan. So you really don't often need to complicate things as much as you think you do. So you do have copies of this inside your workbook that you can take with you and you can study this. But I wanted to start showing you what it looks like to have your whole funnel mapped out. Again, I don't want to overwhelm you, but I want to give you all the information that you need. And you'll notice inside of your workbook, with every time I say sequence here, you'll have a place to write out the emails you want to send in each sequence. So here's an overview of a general funnel that we run at BossBabe. We do organic social into a ManyChat flow, or we do our newsletter, podcast, and other traffic sources like ads straight into an opt-in qualifier. They get added by a tag to a leads list. Now, this color and this color means an action has been taken, right? Then we invite them to our conversion event. Some people will buy, great. Some people will move straight into a sales sequence. Some people will then buy from there. Some people will not buy at all. We'll move them into a downsell sequence. Some people will buy, some people will not buy. We'll keep them on the leads list and we'll send them. Here's the important piece. This is more for my advanced people here. We will send them back into the sales email sequence, probably 3 to 6 months later. Because just because they went through this whole process and decided not to buy doesn't mean that they're not interested in what you have to offer. I mean, just hands up anyone here that didn't join the society the first or the second or the third time you heard me talk about it. And now maybe you've decided, you know what, I'm in, right? Yes, I'm seeing. That's what happens, right? People might not want to buy right away, and that's okay. So we put them back into the sales sequence when we think they've had time to maybe digest, or they've been nurtured a bit more because of our newsletter that we send regularly, or the podcast that they're listening to, or they just decided, oh, thanks for reminding me, I missed the deadline on that last time. So with that, I know that's a lot. We're going to dive into the software, but I just want to check that we don't have any burning questions that I need to answer. Let me see. Okay, Krista said, is the sales sequence that we send them back into 6 months later, do we send them the same emails or should they get a fresh new sales sequence? Now, I don't know what anyone else would tell you, but what I'll tell you based on what I know about all of you is that you want a freedom-based business. And freedom often doesn't come from creating a lot of fresh sequences all the time. And I share that because it's great to just send them straight back into a sales email sequence that you've already written, almost as if they just attended the conversion event. Because what they're going to see is that there's some kind of scarcity on the offer. They don't need to know that it's, you know, the same sequence. They might just say, oh, BossBabe's in a launch again. Now, we have made a significant amount of revenue using this strategy. Most people don't teach this. And there is so much money sitting in your funnel on your list from this one action. Now, most people will think, well, if someone's moved all the way through my funnel and they didn't buy, that's just someone sitting there. No, we keep trying. Maybe we'll try 4 times in a year. And that's how we bring our conversion rates higher and higher and higher. How do we have them on a leads list? Is it in the email sequence? Yes, we're going to dive into all of that stuff. My content and funnel is not in English because my target group lives in Germany. We'll come back to that one. Let me see. I still don't get how the conversion event can be an email sequence and how it fits with the sequences you're presenting today. Okay, so Anita's question is, let's say I want to do an email sequence instead of delivering a webinar. That's my conversion event. So how does that fit? So it's actually pretty simple. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go back and I want to answer this just because some of you might decide you want to do this. So the only thing that will change is that you won't have an email saying bonuses are expiring in 30 minutes. You will run people through this exact same funnel. You'll tell them the backstory of what you created and you'll announce, hey, it's open for the next, say, 7 days. Then you'll go into the transformation of it. You'll keep everything the exact same, right? That's all that will change. And so it really, your conversion event can be an email sequence. I've seen it work very, very well. You just treat it the exact same because all of those prompts that are in there really, really works. How would a conversion event look if it's not a webinar, for example, a quiz? The exact same. So if it's a quiz, you would still have something, let's say their discount at the end of the quiz, they get a 20% off code. At the end of this email sequence, they get the code, right? The code expires or something like that. It's exactly the same that you would still run it. Do you think email marketing is important for service type businesses? Yes, I think email marketing is one of the most important things in any business. Even if you have a tiny list of really hot leads and it's really small, or you're marketing to a wider market of people, I think email marketing continues to be the #1 way to drive revenue in your business. What if you aren't doing a webinar, only a lead magnet and an email sequence as a conversion event? How would you structure it? I answered that, it would just be the exact same. Is it possible to not pitch at the live conversion event? I find it so ick. Could you do a little bit of a pitch and then follow up with an email sequence? Maybe you could, you absolutely could. I think it would really decrease your conversion rate. So that would be your personal preference. Okay, let me see. I think a lot of these other ones are more tech-based. One more question on this. Can you give an example of content that would be inside an email sequence that's a conversion event compared to the content of a sales sequence? It's the exact same. It doesn't change. It's the exact same content because you are literally selling. Your conversion event is your email sequence, so you're selling in your emails. You would announce an email too. This is a product that I'm doing. You would give a full backstory of why you've created it. On email number 3, you talk about the transformation that this product has provided for you or other clients, and then you pitch it. Email 4, you give the results of this product and then you pitch it. The only thing that might differ is if you think about here, when someone opted in, they're getting a short sequence. They're excited to attend the conversion event. If you're not getting them excited to attend a webinar, maybe you're getting them excitement for a big announcement that's coming. So you tell them maybe a little bit of backstory as to why, you give them a bit of an example of what announcement is coming, but it is all the exact same content because for someone to make a purchase, they need to understand the story behind it, the transformation it will give them. Can it be trusted because it's their social proof? What kind of bonuses or scarcity is involved for them to make a decision? Addressing any objections that they might have, and then some kind of close down sequence to say, hey, time's up. So it's all the exact same. Okay, so moving into the software. What I will share is that we prefer all-in-one platforms like Kajabi and ClickFunnels. These are both our affiliate links. Both our affiliate links give you free trials. You can go to kajabi.com/bossbabe or bossbabe.com/ClickFunnels. Listen, I'm not going to sell any platform to you on this call. I'm just going to give you as much plain and simple information about all tech platforms and what each tech platform does. We prefer all-in-one platforms because I like to have everything organized under one roof. And I often find that if you do everything, stitching all things together, it can get very complicated and very expensive fast. So there are some platforms I will not be sharing with you today, simply because I haven't vetted them enough to be able to promote them to you. What I'm sharing with you, I have vetted, I have personally used, I have had clients use, and I know it works. If you are using a platform that you already love that I'm not talking about today, that's okay. You don't need to switch. I just want to share that. I have no bias toward any platform. Even the ones I affiliate for, I have no bias toward. I want you to take this as a guide. All of this is also inside of your workbook, and I want you to do what feels right for you and your business. Again, all I can do is share with you the information. I can't tell you what the right choice is going to be. So diving into all the different areas of your funnel, I'm going to share different parts of the funnel and different kinds of content that you might, different types of tech that you might use for each platform. So obviously we know that short form is Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and X. Long form are things like your podcast. We have used Zencastr, Zoom, and Riverside.fm for actually recording the podcast. Your newsletter and your email marketing generally comes from the same platform. We love Kajabi, Beehive, Flowdesk, ActiveCampaign, and ConvertKit. Again, this is all in your workbook. And then for those of you with a blog, we love WordPress, Wix, and Squarespace. So for your podcast, this was requested, so we decided to add it in. Again, I've shared the software. We've shared a couple of different microphone options for you. We love also having a stand, and you will want headphones if you're using a Shure SM7B. You probably don't need one for a Blue Yeti. So this is the equipment we use. Is it essential? I definitely would have some kind of microphone. It's not absolutely essential. A few of you also asked what kind of equipment we use for delivering webinars. Same equipment as we would use for podcasting. Pop hacks have a sound dampener on the floor, such as a rug or a carpet. record inside a closet with a carpet if you don't have any kind of fancy space. You know, Jenna Kutcher recorded in her closet for about 5 years. You can also buy acoustic foam from Amazon and literally just attach it to your wall for a very low cost. You don't need to spend a lot of money. What's really important is that you just have a crisp, clear sound quality. ManyChat. Okay, let's get into ManyChat because this one is one that I do recommend and I absolutely do love. So ManyChat is a chat marketing software that allows you to automate conversations. Now, you probably by now will have seen this inside of the bonus we give you inside of this program where I'm talking about using ManyChat plus viral reels to drive traffic into our funnel. So if you're wondering about the tech, this is what it is. You can get really complicated inside of ManyChat if you want to. However, there is a very, very simple way of setting it up, and ManyChat has tons of tutorials inside that platform if this is something that you want to do. Kajabi. So we love Kajabi. It is an all-in-one platform which is best suited for digital products like courses and memberships. So you can actually build your entire funnel end-to-end in Kajabi like we have. You can host your website, landing pages, courses, membership, and community content, build your checkouts, process payments. We process payments through Kajabi checkouts, not even Stripe anymore, email marketing, automations, all of it. Again, I love an all-in-one platform. It just keeps everything, it keeps the cost down, it keeps the complications down. ClickFunnels, same thing. This platform actually specializes in funnels and is great for almost every business type, even product-based businesses. You can build your entire funnel end-to-end, landing pages, checkouts, all of it. They also have really good analytics in there. I think the data from ClickFunnels is very strong. It doesn't have its own payment processing, so you'll plug in something like Stripe to be able to take your payments. So opt-in qualifier. So this is when someone opts in at the beginning, like we talked about. So what you will use is a landing page with an opt-in form, which will connect to email marketing software. So you can create something like a PDF in an ebook in Canva. You can create a quiz in Typeform, Interact, ShopQuiz, Outgrow, Slido, discount codes you can do through Stripes, Kajabi, Thrivecart, Square, Shopify, you see it, whatever you're using. And if you want to host any kind of challenge, Facebook, Zoom, Circle, and Kajabi, right? Giving you all the tech. Landing pages. So this is where you could host opt-in qualifiers or your actual sales pages, anything, right? You can build them inside of all of these places here. I'm not going to list out every single one. You get to choose whichever one you want to use. If you choose not to go with an all-in-one, you can definitely do it on single things like lead pages or Instapage. Email marketing software, what I would recommend is that whichever software you choose, you can send both a newsletter from that. You can manage all of your lists. You can manage all of your tagging and build your automations through. I want you to just use one software that can do all of it versus having different email softwares for each. Again, all of this is inside of your workbook. Tagging. So you do want to make sure that you are actually adding people to the appropriate list and tagging. So again, whichever you choose, the system is very similar, but each will come with their own tutorials on how to make sure you're tagging correctly. Webinar. Okay, so we love using Webinar Jams, hands down our favorite, but we have also used Zoom and YouTube. Both work also really, really well. What you will need is a landing page for people to actually register, and then you'll want show up emails, which you'll do versus through Webinar Jam, or you'll do it in your own email marketing software. For anything to do with email, with the webinar, we keep it in the webinar platform. For anything separate, we separate it out. If you are doing sales calls as your conversion event, what we do recommend is having a scheduling software and then host the calls on Zoom. And I would say connect your Zoom to your scheduling. This is Acuity, it should say Acuity. So you can have Acuity, Zoom Scheduler, or Calendly. You can have this all set up to actually sync with your Google Calendar. So someone can click a link, see when you're available, they'll be able to select that time, and then you'll automatically send them a Zoom link. So you don't actually have to do anything. And a lot of that stress is taken off of you. The email sequence that you'll have is the same thing, any of the platforms that we've shared or one that you're already using. If you're doing a challenge or a bootcamp, you mainly just want a place that you can actually host a community. So that's most important. For a sales page, it's the same thing as a landing page that we already talked about, and then you'll link it to a checkout. Again, Kajabi and ClickFunnels can do both for you. So for urgency, what I really recommend is using something like Deadline Funnel. All of these work. ClickFunnels actually do it themselves, but if you're using Kajabi, this question came up in the Q&A, so I waited to answer it. You will use a deadline funnel. If you have a bonus expiring in, say, 30 minutes or 7 days, if you use something like Deadline Funnel, it will handle all of the urgency for you. So it will actually take care of making sure that if Caitlin clicks the link, 7 days later, her link no longer works. So we're actually talking about creating real urgency, real scarcity. And does it mean she could just go all the way through the funnel again to grab the link? Yes, but like we've talked about, someone's going to make all that effort to find your funnel again and go all the way through just to get a payment link. Are you upset about it? Probably not. But it is still real urgency and scarcity because their links do expire. So we love Deadline Funnel. I think it's one of the best. So I have put this inside of your workbook. I'm not going to spend time going through every single element of this because I know it is confusing. But I wanted to show you what our exact funnel looks like so that you can see what kind of tags we have set up. So I know a lot of you have been asking about tags, right? So you can see we had tags here. What happens? What software do we actually use to send what? So you can go through every single element of this. If you just want to duplicate ours, you totally can. So on the left-hand side, we've put together all of the different softwares that we use to make an entire funnel like this happen. And then if you want to go through and see, well, what tags are used, what triggers are used, what actually happens, you can. Now, what's really, really cool when we talk about freedom-based businesses is you can see this dashed line here. Every single thing that happens after this line runs on autopilot. So this is the power of a funnel, because if I just do this and I send my traffic in, everything else is taken care of because I know what my one number is. So if I focus on these things to push into my one number, this is where freedom comes from, because all of this is happening behind the scenes without me having to do a thing, right? All of it is happening behind the scenes. I'm not having to do a thing. That is real freedom. Did this take 24 hours to set up? Absolutely not. This was a big undertaking. And this is why we've given you 8 weeks, because I would say it probably took us 8 weeks to finalize every detail of this. And again, when we get into the data, when we talk about what it looks like to be measuring and to optimize, I'm going to share with you how we would optimize it, because we still optimize our funnels. We don't set it and forget it forever. We always keep an eye on the data. Okay, if I'm sending traffic, is it still working? Is anything broken? That's something that you want to check. So again, all of this is inside your workbook, and you'll actually have your own blank space to start mapping out your own funnel too and see what that looks like, right? So homework, what I want you to do inside of your workbook is map your entire funnel start to finish. I'm not talking about building it, but mapping your entire funnel from start to finish, including the emails that you want to be sending. So I want you, like you see in this one, to consider every single action that your lead might take in the process. How many emails are you sending, and what is the purpose of each email? Which tags and which automations are you going to be using, and which tech platforms are you going to take advantage of to be able to automate as much of this as possible, right? So that's your homework. This week is where things really start to get real. I know for some of you that are advanced, you're kind of looking at this, you're like, yep, got it. Let me see if there's some tweaks I can make. For those of you who are beginners, you might look at this and think, oh my goodness, this is a lot more complicated than I thought it would be. But again, we're getting advanced here. So this is the week that things really get real, and you might start to really feel challenged when you're doing your homework and putting your funnel together. Reminder that that is very, very normal, right? It is very, very normal to get overwhelmed by this many steps. It's very, very normal to start second guessing, can I actually do this? It's very normal for all the tech to go over your head. All of this is very normal, but I still really want you to do it. Because remember, this is the kind of thing you're going to submit to us. And we're going to go through and not just look at this, we're going to click on all of your links. We're going to be looking to see, okay, how could she get this converting a little bit better? How could he be writing these emails a little bit better? We're going to be looking at every single element of your funnel. And that's why we're going to give you until April 19th to be able to submit your funnels. For those of you who it is going to take longer. So I just want to share that. That's really important for me to share. So with that, I am going to dive into everybody else's questions. Okay, so I'm going to try and get to as many as I possibly can. And if I don't get to them, you can also post in your community. All right, so where does Zapier come into the whole process? So the only time you would use Zapier, let me show you, is if your softwares weren't speaking to each other. So if Webinar Jam wasn't speaking to Kajabi, or if ManyChat wasn't speaking to the email marketing sequence you use, then you would use Zapier. I don't want to teach that because this is what I'll say, and I'll be totally honest about it. The funnels that I see being built with Zapier is basically like using tape to plug a lot of things together. That is not what we want, because if something breaks, it's very, very hard to find, and it's just more complicated than it needs to be. It probably also means that you're using a lot of different softwares and a lot of complication in it. So I don't want to see something taped together. I want to see something that is really built effectively, using the right platforms and using as few platforms as possible. It's going to save you money, it's going to save you headache, and it's going to allow you to see your data more clearly. What exactly does Webinar Jam do? Does it send your emails, or is that done from your email provider? So Webinar Jam is where we'll host the actual webinar, and then it will send any emails related to the webinar. So it will know you know, Brianna signed up for tomorrow's webinar at 3 p.m. I know which emails to send her and which ones not to send her. So it still handles anything to do with the webinar. As a self-employed person, is this the best idea to use a all-in-one software? I'm concerned with constant price increases holding me hostage. Yes, so generally you won't see them constantly increase their prices. I do recommend an all-in-one software, especially if you're self-employed, because I mean, ideally, once you're using this software and any of the links, any of our affiliate links, you do get 30 days free. Hopefully your funnel is built by then. I would want to be seeing that you're making way more every month than what this software is costing you. It can be very easy to take a $10 software here and a $20 software here and a $100 software here. And before you know it, these costs build up. Then you're using Zapier to piece things together. And I just don't see it working too well. Is there an example of an email sequence after the opt-in inviting them to an on-demand conversion event? Yes, so it's the exact same as the live one that I shared. It would be the exact same as on-demand. So that's what I shared today, and that's also inside of your workbook. Is there any tool that automates funnel analytics? So we're going to talk about funnel analytics next week. So Tosh said, may I ask Karen why you're answering everyone else's questions, not mine? Tosh, if you have a question, send one of us a message directly and we can support you. Natalie, can you give a real example of the tags? What tags did you use for Freedom Fast Track down the line? Yes. So the best tagging system is one that makes sense to everybody. So not saying 1, 2, 3, and then you know that means someone got these emails and not these ones. Very simple. Something like signed up for Freedom Fast Track webinar. That's a tag name. Attended a Freedom Fast Track webinar. Did not attend Freedom Fast Track webinar. Keeping it very simple like that. Just have your tags be very self-explanatory so that whenever you log in or anyone else logs in, they understand what each tag does. So nothing fancy, nothing complicated. Maybe I missed this, but what software does the tagging? So whichever email software platform you choose will do the tagging. So if you're using an all-in-one software like Kajabi or ClickFunnels, the tagging will happen as you build your sequence out. If you're using something like ActiveCampaign, which by the way, we used that for a really long time, you'll build out your tagging in ActiveCampaign. So that's how you'll do it. Should we map this out in Kajabi, Word, or Excel? You can map it out anywhere. So there's space for you to write it out by hand inside of your workbook, but if you prefer to map it out in Excel or something like that, you totally can. I think if you can map it out visually, that would be really, really helpful because it's good to just see it laid out and logically understand, okay, here's basically all your funnel is a journey that you're taking people on. So here's how the journey works. That's what I want you to be thinking. You use Webinar Jam for your evergreen funnel, but do you also use it for your live webinars? This is a really good question. So when you log into Webinar Jam, you will see that there's actually 2 platforms in one. There's Webinar Jam and EverWebinar. So this is really important if you're doing webinars. You'll set up and run your live webinar on Webinar Jam. And as soon as that's done and you want to turn it over to Evergreen, you will move it into EverWebinar. Now it's very, very simple. There's literally a tutorial in there. And so you'll just click into a different piece of the software to run that on demand. It's very, very simple. It's like, takes 5 minutes and there's a tutorial in, but you'll move it from Webinar Jam to EverWebinar, and EverWebinar is for Evergreen. I'm familiar with hosting a live webinar. Is there anywhere I can see an example of a pre-recorded webinar or Evergreen? Would it be the same not speaking to people live? Yes, DM me the word calm and you can watch the replay of my society webinar and you'll get to see what an Evergreen webinar looks like. I bought into Cohere because you were on the conversion event webinar. Is there a reason you're not mentioning it here? I'm feeling unsure about it. So Cohere is great. The reason that I didn't mention it on here is it's very, very niche. That is for the coaching industry specifically, and not everyone here is a coach. If you are a coach, especially if you're doing one-to-one coaching, but even if you're offering courses to your coaching clients, Cohere is a great platform, Cohere, but I'm trying not to get into industry specific platforms on these calls and really keep things as wide as I possibly can. Let me see. I'm currently using MailChimp for newsletters. Can I create funnels with them, or would you recommend another software? Yes, you can create automations inside of MailChimp. I've also done that too. For the homework and funnel review, is it just writing out the funnel, or do we actually need to make it? So your homework is very different to your funnel review. You're going to get all the instructions for your funnel review separately. Your homework for this week is just to map out your funnel. You don't necessarily need to be building it, but hopefully by now you've already been building. You've already been building your opt-in qualifier, or you've already been building your conversion event. What we're doing now is we're mapping it all out to see, here's the automations that I need, here's the emails that I need, here's what ties it all together. So that's what we're starting to do now. So up until this point in the program, we've been doing individual pieces of the funnel. Now we're getting into a point where we're tying it all together And then moving forward into the next calls, we're going to talk about data analysis. We're going to talk about optimization. We're going to talk about driving traffic. So this is where we make a real turning point from getting it out of our heads actually into something that works. Let me see. I've only got a couple of minutes left, so I want to make sure I answer this one. Does this work for network marketing? Yes, this works for all kinds of businesses. Again, you just need to think about what's your conversion event. If you're a network marketer, what kind of opt-in qualifier are you having? It's very, very similar as long as you're following all the sequences we've laid out of who's your ideal client, what's a way to get them in the door. You really want to think through all of those steps. Can we talk more about content? So blogs, newsletters, we're going to talk about that in traffic. What are your thoughts on having Eventbrite as a landing page instead of Kajabi? So I would only use Eventbrite if I was doing an in-person event. I don't think it's great for webinars. The answer to your question is yes, Min. Let me see. How is Kajabi for email marketing? It's really good for email marketing. Do you have a cold and warm conversion email sequence? Nope, I treat everyone as cold. Let me see. In terms of freedom, what is better, ClickFunnels or Kajabi, including learning how to use the platform? I think both are very similar, honestly. I would just tap into each, maybe get a free trial on both of them, see which one feels more intuitive for you, because everyone's brain works differently and everyone just resonates differently with different types of platforms and ways of doing things. So I would just play with them both, or whatever you're currently using, and just see which one you think you would get a hang of faster. Okay. I'm getting a few questions of what funnel would I build for this kind of business. What I will say is, really by this point in the program, I really want you to have an idea of what funnel you're building. So if you are currently questioning what a funnel would look like for someone in your industry, I'm going to say go back to some of the earlier modules so that you can be caught up to speed with us right now of pulling everything together. Lauren said, have you used Easy Webinar? Yes, I have used it. I think it's great. I think, again, all of these softwares are great. I'm just recommending the ones that I've seen to be most robust and I've had the most experience with. Do you use Kajabi and ConvertKit together? You can, you don't need to. You don't necessarily need to use ConvertKit in addition to Kajabi. That would be an option. Okay. Okay, I'm going to answer this one last question because it's going to symbolize a few things you can do in your funnel. Nicole said, is there a way in Kajabi to allow someone to get the bonuses in your course without giving the bonuses to everyone? Yes, but this would all be part of your funnel. So if they go through a very specific funnel and they buy within a certain time frame, they'll get tagged in a certain way and they'll get given permissions to certain products. Your bonus will be a separate product inside Kajabi. Whereas if they go through a different funnel, a normal funnel, and they buy your product, then they will just get that product. So you will definitely have different sequences for both of those. Okay. Let me see. I just want to make sure. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for this feedback too. I'm so glad that you enjoyed today. We've answered 50. There's a few open questions. So what I will say is if you are really stuck on something, hop into your community. Again, if you are in a place where you don't know what funnel you're going to build, I would say go back and rewatch the first few modules. Maybe it will help you get that understanding. Again, I didn't want today to be overwhelming to you. I really want to lay out when it comes to email marketing, here's all the things that ideally your funnel will have in place. And then in terms of tech, here's all the options that you have available. If you are in the beginner stages, just pick a couple of these things to work on. Maybe you map out your funnel and you test drive a couple platforms, right? If you're advanced, get stuck into all of it. You can totally do that, but I don't want you to put all of this pressure on yourself. If you're already like, oh my goodness, this is a lot, just start with mapping something out. You can always come back. You can always revisit this curriculum. And again, we've extended funnel deadline to April 19th. So what you're going to be sent is an email detailing every single thing that we're asking for when it comes to your funnel review. Plus, you're also getting a tutorial video inside of your curriculum area with all of the things that we want to see inside of your funnel review. Again, I'm going to reiterate this. The funnel review process is very detailed. We are not just bringing you in here to tick a box and say, good job. I deeply, deeply care about looking at every single one of your funnels. We have over 460 of you in this program. We are looking in detail at every single person's funnel. That's why we can't just let you email us with a funnel. Everything has to go through the process so that we have all the information we need. We have blocked out our calendars for the whole month to get in and really review every single funnel. So know that yes, we're asking you for a lot of information. You're pouring everything into it, but we're going to pour everything right back at you to do the best job that we possibly can to help you really get this off the ground in the best way. So know that. So keep your eyes peeled on your emails. If you jump into your curriculum space, you'll also see your workbook for this call. It's exciting, you guys. Get excited. When you signed up for this program, I know you were all like, let's go. We want to build a sales engine. And that's what we're doing. We are building something so robust, so robust. We are so far ahead of the industry, you guys. We are building something that when it comes together, you are going to look at this. You're going to be very, very grateful for your past self for putting this work in. And you're going to say, oh my goodness, I get it. I actually get it because it's working. And I'm making money around the clock with all my emails working for me, with this tagging system that I thought was like written in hieroglyphics. It's working for me. So you're getting there, right? So I want you to know how exciting this is. I know it's a lot of work and I know it can be really overwhelming, but we are doing things differently, right? So keep your eyes peeled. Let's do this. We got you. You are so supported. And if there's anything that you've got a burning question on that we haven't answered, just post in the community and we'll support you as best we can. All right. I'll see you next week, you guys. Bye, everyone.
Ooh. 1.25 speed and all that info.
And here I am. I want to write everything down because it helps me remember. But now I'm like looking at the workbook, listening to her, trying to copy and paste. I was like, oh my goodness. But I think I got most of it. I'm so happy for replays, even at 1.25 speed.
I know there were a few places where I was like, oh, I want to pause this or like take a picture of the screen. I was like, no, you have the workbook. But I
screenshot it. I was like, I did a screenshot at one point and I was the same thing. I was like, why am I screenshot?
Yeah.
I literally keep everything in Evernote. So half the time I'm screenshotting the workbook to put in Evernote. And then Evernote transcribes everything. So then it's like, oh, do you want me to transcribe that image? I'm like, oh, sure, transcribe that image. That felt overwhelming, though, I do have to say. Like, I was like, wow.
It felt really overwhelming for me the first time. And I actually remember that I was even out for a walk while I was listening to it. So I just took away a lot more than I did the first time. But then I went and built it and only like a tiny portion, like the follow-up emails and the show up sequences and the promotion sequence. And that's all. I didn't do anything downsell. I still haven't done anything where I plug people back into my, like, none of that. The tagging has always felt really overwhelming to me. And it feels a lot more clear to me now. So my recommendation would be like, go look at what you have, look at what you want to rewrite or adjust, and then come back and listen to it again after you've implemented some of it, because it will you'll have more space because you've gotten in and done some of the work and seen how it is in action. But yeah, I get really overwhelmed because we have Circle and I have MailChimp and we have our events in a different place. So I am actually duct taping things together.
Yep.
Which feels so frustrating, but it's okay. We'll figure it out.
Same. I know. She was just like, because we do in-person events, so we do use Eventbrite. But you might have convinced me to move over to Luma from our last call, Amanda. We pay $10 and then a ridiculous percentage fee because we don't subscribe to Eventbrite. So thinking about Luma at $69 a month, I'm like, oh, that doesn't seem so bad. If it goes down to 1% then. And then, I threw out the whole Kajabi thing because I've heard such good things about it. But getting it set up is a beast. And then I heard their customer service sucks. So I'm like, okay, that doesn't feel right, because we've got ActiveCampaign, WordPress to ActiveCampaign, Eventbrite, and then ActiveCampaign is our email as well. So at least those two are combined. So I think like we could get those two to work together well. I don't know.
I know.
I love Luma as well. But I was on the free version because we don't do a ton of, I did a cost analysis based on it's a little bit higher percentage, but the 69, it wouldn't have broken even on it. But I really like Luma. Archie, our new system, we do all of our events in the system now. That was like a big pull for me.
Archie.
Archie, yeah, the collab. Emma uses it, and so that's, I mean, that, but that's our big, that's not an event. That's like now our member platform. But what I like about it is I can have things that only members see for events, and then I can have things that everyone sees for users, and I can assign different prices. So if you're a member, you log in, you don't notice you have a different membership tier, you just get the price that's available to you, which is kind of nice. But I really like Luma. Luma's really clean. You can do so much with Luma, like with reminders, like everyone, our members really liked Luma.
Yeah.
And we could
And
also
I
bring collaborators, like other hosts in, which was really nice, and they'd had access to it. It just like felt much better than like the Eventbrite platform.
And Archie, spell it for me.
Archie.
Okay. Archie.
I originally used Kajabi, but Kajabi doesn't let you do any reservation systems or anything like that. I thought Kajabi was a little hard. Their customer service is pretty miserable. Like I actually had to go back in because they're still connected to a Stripe account that's causing problems, and like they couldn't do anything for me. They basically had to give me like a free trial. So I'm like now back in Kajabi trying to get out of
Out of
it.
it.
But I mean, and I switched to Office R&D from Kajabi because I was like, I need this reservation piece. And I feel like if you're gonna have to plug in something just for your community anyways, like a Circle or something makes more sense. You know, if you're gonna have two like softwares, then yeah, I didn't have a great Kajabi was, it was just hard. I think Kajabi's great for like coaches and consultants, like if you've got a digital course or something, like I think it's more designed for something like that.
Yeah. The community aspect of it. Or
So in Archie, you can do events and landing pages for events with member, non-member pricing. I'm looking at like just the website. You
It's
can
not really, it's not, you know, we like gave up on a few of our favorite pages. It's not as much of that like a landing page, but so I'll like for our big events, I create like our website has a landing page and it links to Archie. But just for our month-to-month events, like you can create the event, the description. We're trying to figure out location because right now it automatically puts everything at the fount, which is great. Most of our events are only at the fount, but sometimes we do like go off-site. But you can like once you have all your groups set up, you can like assign ticket prices per group. So when someone logs in, it like automatically triggers their group pricing.
can you do email through there? Or do you have to zap it over and tag, like do the tagging in the email?
Yeah, so you can create like leads in there. So if you have like a lead form, if someone's interested to tour or something, you can like create mini leads, but I do everything in Flowdesk. It like doesn't let you do as many emails. I do all my internal, like if I have to blast all my members or if I have to blast like coworkers or specific groups, it's really easy at doing that. And it feels like it's coming from my email regardless. But my newsletter system and anything I'd probably run a funnel through would be Flowdesk. And I connect them.
Yeah.
with
I just had a call with
Zapier.
Cisco. Oh,
Yeah,
right.
Zapier.
If you're considering different systems, I'll plug. I'm not 100% sure how this all works, but Circle has significantly upped their game. Was I telling you this, Dana, last time that we
Uh-huh.
yeah. So I'm hoping to play around with it over the next few weeks because the amount of money that I leave on the table from having non-members come to events that I'm not following up with, I'm not downselling them, like none of that. I'm just like, hey, thanks for coming. What did you think of the event? You know, that's where I'm just like, this has got to be automated. And I look at her dotted line, I'm like, holy fucking shit. If all of that could be
I
automated,
know.
change my life. That would
Yeah.
change me. I like wake
Same.
up in the middle of the night, think about that shit.
Yeah, I was literally just posting. We use Mighty Networks for all of our like membership internal communication stuff, but it can only do things internally. So I can put up events, but then I have to put them out on an Eventbrite for external and for ticketing. Even if our members are doing ticketing, they go through Eventbrite, which is, and then all the promo codes and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
But like last night I was sending, copy and paste, but like a welcome email with, hey, because I always am like trying to remind folks, like, welcome, glad you joined over the holidays. Be sure to do these three things, you know,
Yeah.
and one of them is join these specific events that are happening this month, third Friday, in-person onboarding, and one other. And I have to like customize that every month to fit with the events. And I'm just like, got to figure out better ways to do that. Because, it's just on me, but eh, you know, but everybody is like, and then I also include a link, which this might be a recommendation. I don't know if you choose to meet every new member who comes into your space, but I'm like, sign up on I use Mixmax, not Calendly. I was like, sign up on my own calendar
I
for
do
to
that.
grab a cup of tea or coffee. And
Mhm.
this is again the like a little hook is like I'll tell you like my favorite spots to go to walk to right from the Lola, or something like that.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
but oh yeah, automations would feel beautiful for all of this.
I feel like once we're done through this, it would be really fun to have a series where like each of us walks through what the onboarding process looks like. Like
Yeah.
one call is like, what does the Lola do? And others, what does Skyro do? What does the Fount do?
Mm,
Just as like a way to share, because
yeah.
that's critical, one of the most critical parts, and how much of that is automated and how much of it is personal touch, and how do you encourage them to become involved. So think on that if you'd be open to that, because I would love to, once we wrap this up in the next couple weeks,
Yeah.
like you connecting, even if it's like every other week or once a month, or I think every other week would be awesome. But
Well, Bailey, we've been talking about like there's so many things that we're all doing and all spending ridiculous amounts of money in different places, just as this conversation identified. It's like if we could put together our dream platform that does all the things, right?
All the things.
All the
Yeah.
things. So we didn't need three systems to do them. And we put together what that requirement list is and then build it. And then we pay
And build it.
into, a developer to do it because no one system is ideal whatsoever.
I feel like Danielle and I mentioned, we talked about that briefly in Nashville, because I was like the same thing. I was like, we got all these places. We all have this like highly like relational community element. We have events. We also need like this co-working, like you need to buy memberships and desk and rentals and stuff like that. And it's like, but I was like, we have so much power between the 30 of us to put all these dollars like somewhere else. Like, yeah, the amount of money like you pay in your systems to have them, that would make so much sense.
Yeah.
And we've got time because I just migrated everyone over, so I wouldn't want to migrate anyone off right away. But but I have the same
Exactly.
thing. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, if we were bigger, I would prefer just to like white label, like and literally work with the developer, but it would just be so expensive. But and then if you had a cool feature where if we were all on the same platform, then it would be easy to like, hey, like check out our partner, or like ping our partner if you're gonna go there or something, and just automate that too. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
so many things to solve. Okay, any last minute thoughts on this before we wrap up? I'm gonna let us all go 40 minutes early, and I'm gonna
Yes.
try and sneak in a tiny workout before I have to get back into it.
Good woman.
Yay.
I'm
Nice.
gonna go for a walk to the coffee shop myself. So it's perfect.
Would you be interested in me sharing the sales templates? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Chat GPT. Yeah, I'll
Yes,
see.
please.
I don't know if the Chat GPT is a video or if it's just like a module workbook type thing. I'll find out and I'll share that. And then I'll share this recording, or I'll have my assistant put it all together. But okay.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, ladies, for being here. And
Next week.
anyone
Bye,
watching the
ladies.
recording, we love you. All right.
Come
Bye.
on back live in
Yeah,
person.
yeah, come live.
Yeah.
Bye,
Bye.
ladies.